Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all and welcome you to this December meeting, and want to wish you all a great holiday season in advance. So we're going to call the meeting to order. Sam, will you give me a confirmation of the quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum and the press have been notified.
Okay, great. I think everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any additions or corrections that anyone may have? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion that they be approved.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Okay,
second.
motion by Bruce, second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, so the next item of business is Terry Helton. Your final resolution for Park Hill Algonquin Acres.
Yes,
So
sir.
you want
Thank
to tell us
you.
about that, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. All three of these are all in a similar situation, so they'll all be very relatively the same. The final resolution for Park Hill Algonquin Acres was presented to you all in October of 2025 for a final resolution. And in that final resolution, it stated that the bonds had to be issued by 12/31 of 2025. This particular project and the other two as well have project-based vouchers, which will require HUD to review. And being that the federal government was shut down for 43 days, they are seeking to have their final resolution extended. So there is a backlog of projects seeking responses from HUD. So just in an abundance of caution, we would like to extend their final resolution to have those bonds issued by May 15th of, and that should be 2026. I do apologize. I do see that error in the memo. So staff does recommend approval by the Board of Directors of this final resolution extension for Park Hill Algonquin.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, it's just going to
Okay.
make sure we say 2026.
Yes.
Go
Kath-
ahead, whoever was.
Kathy, I reviewed the resolutions and made sure that they all said 2026.
Okay. Well, then I interrupted somebody. Sorry.
It's okay. So does anybody have any questions of Tracy in regard to this? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion. Somebody made a motion, I think earlier. Would you make that motion again?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need a second? Kathy?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, Terry, so McNeely Lake.
Yes, sir. Meadows at McNeely Lake is in the same situation. Because of the HUD shutdown, we would like to extend their final resolution for issuance of bonds to May 15th, 2026. They were presented to you all earlier this year for that final resolution in the amount of $40,500,000. Staff does recommend approval by the Board of Directors for this extension of their final resolution.
Okay. Any members have any questions in regard to this? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion that it be approved.
Matt Wingate, so moved.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Do I have a second? All right, I
Matt
have a
Sawyer.
motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, Terry, you're on a roll here.
Okay, thank you all. Again, this is SoCar Northern Kentucky portfolio. It does consist of 3 projects. They were presented to you all for a final resolution in September of 2025 for a bond amount of $25,987,000. Again, this particular project does have project-based vouchers, which will require a review from HUD. And because of their shutdown, they have a backlog of projects, and we want to just, in again, abundance of caution, extend that resolution so that they can close by May 15th of 2026. And we have reviewed the staff does recommend approval by the Board of Directors for the SoCar Northern Kentucky portfolio.
Any members have any questions of Terry in regard to this? If not, I'll entertain a motion that it be approved.
Matt Wingate, so moved.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Do I have a second? Do I have a motion and a first and a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, Terry, thank you so much for your hard work. We appreciate everything you do.
Thank you all, and I wish you all a happy holiday.
Thank you. Okay, Tracy Thurston, presentation of the Kentucky Housing Corporation financials as of September 30th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm going to give you a brief update on our first quarter financials for fiscal year 2026. So starting with a pro forma statement of net position, which is our balance sheet here. Looking at line A, total assets have continued to increase as a result of issuing mortgage-backed securities to finance our mortgage production. Total program purpose assets increased by $68 million since June 30 of last fiscal year, which is mainly our MBS purchases into the new indenture. Going down to line B, cash and investments, this decreased by $93 million. That includes an $82 million increase in investment securities and a $9 million decrease in cash. This decrease is almost primarily in the new indenture as we utilize bond proceeds we had on hand from the prior fiscal year to finance our mortgage activity. We did not issue any new debt in the first quarter. Overall decrease in assets since June 30 is $25 million down in line D as we use the investments on hand for our mortgage production activities. Looking down at line E and F, revenue bonds and interest payable. These two lines decreased by $32 million during the first quarter, which mostly reflects our July 1 bond redemptions, our payments to our bondholders. And then looking at the net position before our mark-to-market in line J, it increased slightly by $5 million. We saw a total increase in that position of $20 million at the end of fiscal year 25, so this seems to be on a similar track as last fiscal year. And then go down to line K. This is our mark-to-market of our securities as required by GASB. The market value of our securities improved year over year by about $7.1 million, something we saw last year with our securities as well. This is almost entirely the securities in the new indenture, which we continue to add to. Most of the securities in the old indenture are still sitting with unrealized losses, but since we don't plan to sell those, it's just a non-cash adjustment on the books. And then line L, the overall net position quarter end improved by $14 million to $518 million, mostly the result of booking that mark to market, and then a large reduction in our liabilities over our assets of about $6 million. Any questions on the schedule?
Any members have any questions?
No, I have none.
Okay, go right ahead, Tracy.
Okay, moving on to our income statement for the first quarter. Line C, net interest income. There's a slight increase in our net interest income for the first quarter compared to last year, about $400,000. We're earning more interest on our investments and our securities in a higher interest rate environment. Our interest income in future quarters may be impacted given the Fed's reduction in rates yesterday, so we'll continue to watch that. Line D, gain on sale of loans. Our gain on sale of loans appears to trend downward to $2.6 million at September 30th compared to the $3.5 million last year. Our production is actually up slightly this quarter. The way we accounted for lender comp with our mortgage-backed securities in the new indenture last year changed compared to this year. So the net gains is actually pretty level. So you'll see this fixed in future quarters, but essentially this is a fund accounting issue that pops up from time to time because we don't do eliminating entries. So both the gains on sales of loans in the September 30th, 2024 and the lender comp expense both have an additional $988,000 that is essentially just, we did not eliminate those entries and it's been fixed in future quarters. I just didn't catch it on this report until earlier today. So again, our gains on sales of loans is pretty level. We saw an increase in our gains in Ginnie Mae and a slight decrease in what we're getting from Freddie. Going down to line E, fees, charges, and grants, there's an increase of $1 million year over year. This is mostly the result of our servicing income and multifamily fees being slightly ahead of where we were last year at this time. And you'll see that in our operating operating budget report. And the line F, similar last slide, this is our net increase or decrease in the mark to market. We saw a big pickup in fiscal 25 of 11.7 million. We continue to see an increase as we add more securities. And then we still have those unrealized gains booked from our older securities. So line G, total revenues decreased by about 3.5 million, which is largely that non-cash mark to market that we had to book compared to last year. And then going down to line H, our general administrative expenses, there's an increase of about 1.2 million. This is predominantly decreased spending in our COVID-related programs year over year. You'll see that on a future slide as well. And then line P, our change in net position, which is our net income, is 14 million, a $4 million decrease compared to last year. And this is mostly due to that pickup in the fair value of securities of September last year compared to this year. When you take that out down in line U, we're pretty flat year over year. Any questions on our income statement?
Any members have any
Tracy.
questions?
Yeah.
Tracy, it's Bill, and maybe it's in here somewhere, and I can't remember seeing it. On the provision for losses, if that's stated as a basis points, what would be our annualized?
The provision on loan losses, if it was stated in basis points?
Yeah.
I'll have to get that. I don't have that off the top of my head. I'll have to get that to you.
What would that typically run for the?
Our loan loss, our provision for loan losses is relatively low because we're an FHA shop. So I think it would be quite low. I mean, for the most part, if we have an issue with a loan, we generally convey that back to HUD and are made whole for the most part. So I think it would be relatively low, but I'd have to dig into that a little bit, Bill.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, moving on to cash flows, Sam. Not a whole lot to comment here, but if you look at the bottom page, you can see our production is up some from last year. Our total production, Jamie just gave me some numbers shortly ago, is 156 million the first quarter, compared to 140 million in mortgages last year, the first quarter. It looks like our average loan now is over $200,000. So a little disheartening, but that's how the market seems to be moving. And then the next two slides are related to our operating budget. So I'll go over our operating fee income budget versus actual for the first quarter. Looking at line A, rental assistance, we are about 263,000 favorable to budget. There's a couple things that happened here. We had a one-time annual fee that came in through our PBCA program that came in earlier than budgeted. So that should level out some. And then we also received some additional housing choice voucher fees from HUD after a reconciliation process. So happy to see that. Line D, weatherization programs, unfavorable budget by about 123,000. This is a result of some staff vacancies and some lower travel and employee development expenses compared to budget. Since this is a grant, if we don't incur the expense, we don't draw down the fees. So you'll see some lower expenditures related to this on the next slide. And line F, COVID programs, this is unfavorable to budget by 253,000. When we budgeted for fiscal 26, we planned for the HOPE program to wind down later in the year, only to determine that the funds would be exhausted sooner than planned. So we've already, closed down the windows for the program, so we're not accepting new applications. We've shrunk staff size as the program is sunsetting, so we will not require as much administrative reimbursement as originally planned this fiscal year. And then going down to line G, mortgage servicing fee income is 400,000 favorable to budget. We always try to be a little conservative with this income projection. It depends on loans not prepaying and a performing portfolio. So we're on track there. And then rental production in line H, we're 256 million favorable budget, and that was 265,000 in favorable budget. I wish it was million. This variance is mostly due to the timing of projects closing, so it ebbs and flows a bit throughout the year. And then line P, overall, we're about 600,000 favorable to budget with a surplus of a little under 2 million at quarter end. Any questions on the schedule? All right, move on to our expenditures. The last thing I'll highlight here, and I really only have one area to highlight, and then one area to kind of bring you all up to speed on. Most everything is on track here, but line G, our mortgage servicing default costs, were unfavorable to budget by about 320,000. This is a result of a handful of things, almost a perfect storm. So the HUD allowable fees that we can charge, we can be charged by property preservation companies, and court costs related to foreclosure expenses increased, along with an increase in the number of active foreclosure cases we have in the portfolio. So for an example, in September 2023, we had 215 active cases. In 2024, we had 249. And then at September 30th and 25, we had 298. We recoup most of these costs. We're a tier A ranking agency, but we're on the hook for 25% of the foreclosure fees. So increased fees charged along with more active cases has increased our expenses. Added to this, Kentucky was under 3 separate FEMA declarations in 2025, all due to tornadoes. This caused a delay in foreclosure filings that would have hit in fiscal 25, but did not until this fiscal year. And then additionally, related to foreclosures, borrowers previously had COVID relief options, such as forbearance programs, our HOF program, which have concluded. There are also relaxed loss mitigation options during COVID that have recently been tightened up by HUD. So this has also led to increased default activity. But I will say it's the increases look big on this page, but our foreclosure activity is at 2% of our portfolio. It's not a substantial amount whatsoever. And then we're also seeing an increase in court costs due to increases in bankruptcies. So similar to the foreclosures, we're seeing an increase year over year. In September 2024, we had 561 cases compared to 613 in September 2025. So we do anticipate that this unfavorable variance in our default cost expenses will grow this year, but we certainly, we've got the revenue to offset it. And it will definitely give us a more normal year to base the budget off of for fiscal 27, because we just have not had a normal year in servicing. Before I move on to the next topic, do you all have any questions on that? I know default tends to be a scary topic to bring up.
So Tracy, let me ask you, you say it's 2%. Historically, what does it run?
It's been in the ones for a while. We have not really had some issues. I should have thrown a graph in here of where we were, in 2010, 2011. We've really had a pretty strong portfolio the last 10 years that this hasn't been an issue, but COVID kind of threw things off because we had a huge number of payments we haven't received for a small amount of borrowers, where now a lot of that has caught up, where we don't have as many payments we haven't received, but the number of borrowers that are behind has increased.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's nothing that you can point to this year that has created this. Actually, it's all it's the COVID, as I call it, the COVID leftover. Right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. There was a lot of options to keep borrowers' payments, up to date during COVID, or at least forbearances, so there would be no foreclosure action. And that was some increased costs because HUD allowed increased charges kind of all pulled together at the same time. So I don't think the number of cases will increase more than what we have now, but the costs associated with those have kind of, hit the budget where it's pretty noticeable.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You care to estimate what the annual budget variance will be?
Well, here's what's funny. It's not funny, actually. Last year, our total cost was about $688,000. So you can see we're close to hitting that. We'll definitely hit that by the end of the second quarter. So, maybe $1.5 million compared to the 800 we budgeted.
Thank you.
Yep. And for some better news, the other item I wanted to brief you on is salaries and benefits. Nothing to note for the financial update. We're on track there, but I did want to follow up on some discussions we had related to staff compensation. If you recall, a few months back, our director of HR, Jordan Weiss, provided an overview of our compensation policy and adjustments we've had over the years. When the fiscal 26 budget was presented back in April, I mentioned that we were going to include a one-time payment of 3% for eligible staff, and we would decide later in the year, later in the fiscal year, whether or not or if to proceed with that payment, given the turmoil at the federal level, the potential cuts to programs, et cetera. Now that things have settled down to some extent, the executive team feels comfortable moving forward with a 3% cost of living increase to base pay for all eligible KHC employees, including our executive director, effective December 22nd of this year. We feel that the COLA, not the one-time payment, is most appropriate this time to continue to address rising inflationary pressures on our staff and their families and to support staff retention efforts. While there's still some uncertainties with where things are going at the federal level and our programs, we just want to make sure you're all aware of where we landed on the topic and hope it comes as a nice boost to staff right before the holidays. So, of course, it's budgeted for, but there's been discussions on this. So we just want to make sure you guys were all up to date on where we decided to land on compensation.
Well, thank you,
Certainly.
Tracy. And I will say from what I see at Kentucky Housing, you all very much deserve that increase. And that's right in line with the inflation rate. I think I saw a figure this morning of 2.9. I saw one last week of 3.1. So you're really close to the inflation rate. So I appreciate the executive team given that consideration to the employees. They certainly deserve it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Overall, financial report, we're still on budget. We're ahead on revenues. It's a good first quarter. I don't think we'll have as quite a profitable year as we did in fiscal 25, but I think we're still on track to have a very good year. Keeping our eyes on what's going on with the federal level, with programs, interest rates, prepayment speeds, and the like. But I think we're in a good spot still. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Well, thank you, Tracy. You always do a wonderful job. Any members have any questions of Tracy?
Hey, Mike, it's
Yep.
Bill. First of all, Tracy, I think I mentioned this before. I am really impressed with the quality of the financial reporting that you provide to the board. It's very easy to follow and to understand, and I greatly appreciate that. And then the second thing, Mike, does the board need to make a motion to approve the 3%, which I agree, like you, is very much appropriate and well deserved. But do we need to codify that into our records?
I don't think so, Bill. I'll yield to Sam, but I don't think so because it's a management decision. Is that correct, Sam?
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. So Bill, we don't need
Okay.
we don't need a motion because that's done at the management level.
All right. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the kind words, and I will credit my predecessor for condensing some of these financial reports, because I think the board used to get some massive reports that were hard to work through. So thank you.
well, Tracy, you do an excellent job. Do you have anything else today?
I do.
Well, we
Happy
appreciate
holidays,
it.
everyone.
Thank you. Okay, we don't need a motion to accept our report, do we, Sam?
No, it
Okay,
was informational only.
all right, okay. All right, Sam, you want to talk about the meeting schedule for next year?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the corporate structure and mission of KHC is governed by KRS 198A and its bylaws. Section 2.6 of the bylaws state that regular meetings of the Board of Directors will be held at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the last Thursday of February, April, May, August, October, and on the second Thursday in December in Frankfurt, unless otherwise designated by the board. So normally every year at this time, the board approves a resolution to include those regular meetings. This year, we thought it would be prudent to go ahead and schedule some of the committee meetings as well in advance, just so that we can have it on everyone's calendar. Everyone knows when they are. So those have also been included in the resolution. So KHC staff recommend approval by the board of directors of a resolution adopting this following schedule of regular and committee meetings for calendar year 2026 as outlined in this resolution, number 56.
Any members have any questions of Sam in regard to this? So anyway, Sam, I think it's.
Can I ask? I'm just, you haven't boxed yourself in with the committee meetings in case, because it's so many fewer people and they might need to change a date or something?
Yeah, so this is just to put it on the calendars. If it needs to be changed, we can change that. Or if we need to cancel it, we can cancel it. Like if there's nothing for the agenda. This is just so that just to set the planning schedule for you all. And for staff, and you know, especially like with the program policy and planning committee, we scheduled that knowing that we had some items that would come in February and planning around those dates and times. So,
okay. Do you need a motion?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, if you would like to make a motion to accept this.
I move.
Any other members have any questions?
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
I move to accept this resolution.
So we got a motion for Kathy. Do I have a second?
Matt Wingate,
It's
I
Marilyn. I second.
Okay. A second by Marilyn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
second.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, so Winston, informational items. I'll turn it over to you.
We have two informational items to update you on. Since our last board meeting, we sent out a mailing, I think it was dated November the 26th, advising you of some changes that were happening and updating you on the continuum of care, and in particular advising you of a civil action that Governor Beshear had intervened on behalf of the interest of the continuum of care, along with the number of attorney generals. And then on December 2nd, we updated you on the results of or the status of the Kentucky Housing Task Force of the legislature. And since then, there have been some developments, and Wendy has been kind enough to agree to update us on those. And if there are really technical litigation questions about the continuum of care litigation, Sam may weigh in. Wendy?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for letting me update you on this. You all may recall at a recent board meeting, I gave you a preview of what we were concerned about. We've also briefed the governor's office, and since the NOFO did come out on November 13th and was as troubling as expected, and then some, we've been reaching out to all of our congressional delegation, all the staff across our congressional delegation, and keeping in good contact with the governor's office. And the governor, along with 19 other states and DC, pursued a legal suit against HUD over this NOFO that would gut homelessness funding. Again, I'm not going to go over all the details, but as a minor thing that is really major is this was supposed to be a renewal year. Congress approved a 2-year cycle whereby we would do a competitive application at the national level. And then in the second year, it would be renewals. And HUD decided to forego that and give us 90 days to reapply for the funding and to significantly limit how much of the funding can be used for what we call permanent housing, just rents for people who have been homeless. We spend over 70% of our homelessness funding on rents for folks who were previously homeless. The new limit would be 30%. So what this means is beginning in January, for some organizations in Louisville, they will not have rent dollars for folks who have recently been homeless, who have leases to renew. For us, that would hit in March. There are many, many other elements to the NOFO that are problematic. So this multi-state lawsuit was actually joined with a number of local governments and national nonprofits who also filed suit. So those were combined, and we had a hearing last Friday. About 90 minutes before that hearing with the federal judge, HUD withdrew the notice of funding opportunity, which is, it's all unprecedented. It's all very herky-jerky. The federal judge was really angry about it, called it intentional chaos, and really pointed out how time-consuming and expensive these legal actions are, and then to have HUD, pull the NOFO, and the attorneys had no explanation as to why, and no explanation as to what the next steps are. Do they plan to reissue soon? Are they going to renew? What's going to happen? We reconvene. I'm just listening. I want to make sure that's clear, but the court reconvenes next Friday, the 19th, and HUD and the DOJ attorney representing HUD are expected to give an explanation about the withdrawal and what the plan is going forward. So hopefully we'll know more on Friday. So this feels like a tiny win, but I have to make it clear all of our funding is still at risk. And again, there are some Kentucky, tenants who used to be homeless whose leases renew in January. So there's still a real urgency to understanding what's going to happen.
Do any members have any questions of Wendy in regard to this? And Wendy, I'd just like to say the document that you all prepared was not only well done, but it was really educational for me. I really learned a lot from reading it. So thank you so much.
It's super complex. It's really hard to even explain to congressional staffers how all this ideally works and how it's proposed to be changed. So thanks, Mike.
Any members?
I have a question.
Sure.
When they reconvene on the 19th, whatever may or may not come out of that meeting on that date, will you send out something to keep us updated prior to the next meeting, just so we can be in the know along the way?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, absolutely. I think Winston would be happy to do that. We'll definitely get you all an update.
Okay, and you probably were going to do that anyway, so thank you.
I will, I'll accept Mike's credit. I also want to make sure that you all know Sam did a lot of heavy lifting on that document, as did my staff who work in our homeless programs. At the time where they thought they also were having to prepare an application for this competition, they also worked on this giant declaration to outline the harms. So it was a group effort, and a lot of extra and weekend time was put into it.
Well, it's very well done. I didn't understand it all, I have to tell you, but very well done. Okay, Winston, or?
I was going to look to Wendy again. I think you were going to give us some comments on the housing task force, Wendy,
Yeah. Thanks, Winston. This was an update I think Winston sent you all just after the Thanksgiving holiday, just letting you all know that the state's legislative housing task force, which is a special ad hoc committee that has been convened for a second year, had their final meeting recently and put out a report that, at least compared to last year's report, had a lot more detailed, focused recommendations about actions to take. And it does include our key recommendations, which are to increase the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, to consider a state housing tax credit for affordable housing, and to establish a large revolving loan fund for housing infrastructure. No idea what's going to make it through the legislative process, right? That roller coaster is going to start in January, but we were happy to see our recommendations included.
Hey, Wendy, if I remember, one of the key things was maybe an adjustment to those real estate transaction fees, which are used to fund the trust fund.
Yes.
Is that likely to prevail?
I mean, it's been talked about a lot. I know legislation was drafted last session. I know it's being drafted this session, so I'm hopeful. But the co-chairs have made it clear that while they have ambitions, it's going to be up to leadership in the legislature to decide what gets kind of a shot at making it through.
Because if I remember, that fee had not been adjusted for
since it was established.
Yeah.
Just making sure that most of our funding at KHC is not grabbable by the state legislature. So when we put in something for them to pass, they don't like put in an addendum that, takes away. I mean, our mortgage stuff, they can't touch, right? I mean, our bonds, they can't touch. Any of our other money, can they touch? I worry about that. I worry about the state legislature grabbing from anywhere they could. So,
well, Kathy, I think that has happened in some other states in years past. I've heard nothing about that as being something that's been rumored or discussed as a possibility in Kentucky since I've been here at the Kentucky Housing Authority. And we're certainly not doing anything that would, we believe, would jeopardize or increase the risk that would happen. What we've provided to the legislature in terms of information has been the type of information that we have historically provided, except perhaps more of it and more in depth, which is to provide information and about what the current situation is in the state and about what other states are doing. And in that way, providing options for the legislature and for that matter, the governor to consider. So I don't believe that we're in any increased jeopardy of losing control of our funding.
But Kathy, I will add that I was on the budget committee in the legislature, and when things are bad, everything's in jeopardy. But things are pretty good right now. But it would have to be a really dire situation for them to access the funds of quasi agencies. Wouldn't you agree, Winston?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'm not for sure exactly what their authority would be to even attempt to do that. So at this point in time, we're not. We wouldn't dismiss it as something that we certainly have thought about the possibility, but we're not preoccupied with it. Okay, well, those are the two informational items that we had. We're certainly open to respond to questions on any other areas or on those areas as well. But those were the items that we wanted to bring to your attention. And has been requested. We will keep you posted of continuing actions in the continuum of care litigation. And as legislation is being introduced to presumably implement certain parts of this task force recommendations, we will attempt to keep you informed. I suspect that there will be a lot of housing bills introduced, and we may not advise you of every single bill that gets introduced. I've forgotten how many bills that were introduced last year that touched on housing in some way or another, and then again, how few of them actually passed. But if there's any substantial movement in terms of key legislation, we will certainly let you know, so that you're in a position to take whatever action you think is appropriate with regard to that.
Okay, thank you, Winston. Any members have any questions of Winston or Wendy? Okay, so we'll move on to items from the board or staff. Any members have anything they want to bring up today?
Just to say that the new Metropolitan Housing Coalition annual report is out, and it is about workers and housing. And I'm sure housing, it focuses on Louisville, but connecting community with economic opportunity. So that's available now.
Yeah, I had someone deliver a hard copy of it to me today. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'm sure it's available online for anybody, or if you want a hard copy, we'll try to get some additional hard copies and mail them to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other members? Winston, would you be sure that all the employees know that on behalf of the board that we really appreciate their effort this calendar year, and we wish them a happy holiday season and thank them for all the work that they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. We're having an all employees short meeting next Wednesday morning, and serving breakfast and coffee, and talking about some of the accomplishments of this year. And we will certainly include the message that you just recited there, Mike, to them, to make sure that they really know how much support they have from you all, which is very important.
Thank you. So we were bracing for a big snowstorm up here, and we had a terrible accident up here 2 days ago on slick roads. So just let me say, you all be safe. The next few days are going to be pretty bad here. They're expecting 8 to 10 inches of snow. So just be safe, and I wish everyone a great holiday season and a safe holiday season. So if there is no other business to come before the board, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn. And Bill, I'll try to resend that big gift back to you.
All right. Well, with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn and wish everyone a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. So, all right. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor
Second.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.